Addiction is a myth, and we are all being killed. Welcome to the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. I do not believe in addiction. Let me clarify that. I do not believe in addiction that gives up responsibility by the user as promoted by very liberal people who replace your responsibility for stealing from your parents, prostitution, burglary, thuggery, murder, sex for trade with addiction. So you're asking, Shakaama, addiction is real. You're crazy. No, I'm not crazy. The liberal stance on addiction is that you are powerless to stop yourself from a whole host of actions due to addiction. It's complete garbage thinking and not scientific at all. You know full well you're stealing the family car. You know full well you're prostituting. In fact, most of these acts are committed when you're stone cold sober. You reason with yourself that you're doing it to get your fix. Well, Shakaama, what do you suggest we do? Hold on. First, let's truly explain what we're addicted to. Food, drugs, substances like salt and sugar, which has been proven to be more addictive than any drug, and legal drugs such as alcohol and cigarettes. Before I begin, let me say that the brain itself is the most powerful thing in a human. Let's look at black people. White supremacy has convinced black people that they have never contributed anything to society, that they are the worst, that any community they live in is a ghetto, and has even convinced other peasants, uneducated white people, that they are somehow better than black people. And because of the psyop, entire cities of black people live as third-class citizens just because they've been convinced as such. Now, if you can take a healthy human and convince them of this, there is nothing on this planet you can't do if you get inside the human's brain, including convincing them that they are an addict. But remember, I started off with food. Notice most food addicts simply eat themselves to death, and 90% of them don't commit any crime. They can live a great, responsible life, and their only fault is bullying people into not calling them fat. That doesn't work on me, but that's another story. However, the bullying only comes from women. Men can be called fat all day, but that's another video. Now, if you can convince yourself that you're not a food addict, although you're clearly a food addict, there's a big brain thing again. But somehow you're not robbing the local donut shop, then clearly the liberal stance on addiction, where you're not responsible for anything you do while you're addicted, even when you're stone cold sober, doesn't hold true. But Shakaama, you say, food addiction is nowhere near as powerful as drug addiction. Okay, insert your favorite curse word here. It has been proven that if you come off of food, you will have withdrawals worse than any drug, and you very well can die just from the withdrawals. That's why people die fat, because they can't kick the addiction. That is, they're not told how to kick it, and fad diets don't count. It bothered me that this notion of addiction. And before I begin, let me say this. Some people can go cold turkey and quit any addiction through their church. Why is that, Shakaama? Because the church offers them something that even treatment centers fail at, a complete support center. What's happening to the people that join a church specifically to quit an addiction cold turkey? They have a support group that is always around them, and more than likely, the members of the church provide something the addict probably didn't have, which drove them to the destructive behavior in the first place, namely a father. I would go into the failure of women trying to raise a child by themselves and even pushing away the father, which destroys the child, but that's another video. Suffice it to say that a huge percentage of addicts, yes, including food addicts, are that way due to a lack of fathers. And yes, I'm sorry, white people, this affects white people way more than the news would have you believe. You know the stupid stance that fatherlessness only affects black people is propaganda. With 6 white people to 1 black person, it's impossible that black people would have more fatherlessness than anyone else. By definition, it would affect far more white people than black people. Even if it were only 1 in 6 white families, it would be more than the entire population of black people. At the end of the day, you have way more numbers of white addicts on the street than the entire black population. Stop the false pride. So I don't believe in addiction. And what started me on this was my own craving for sugar. I did some research on that and found that vitamin supplements, it completely disappeared. Even if I bought a soda, I wouldn't even drink it. Voila, problem solved. Wait a minute, I said to myself. I read a report about fast food that said salt and sugar addiction is more powerful than any drug addiction. Follow my logic here. If I can cure my sugar cravings just by taking some organic vitamins, then what else is there? Yes, I constantly do research on myself. If you got a very smart brain, you've picked that up by now. So then I looked into addiction not being true. There's more of that logic. And the way you do research is prove me wrong. Most researchers do the opposite. They look for stuff that proves them right. Immediately I found talks, research, non-medical testimony, documentaries, and finally the reason this entire thing isn't widespread, meaning how I stop my sugar cravings with just taking vitamins. Of course, at the end of the day, is a giant government conspiracy behind it. Wait, before you put a tinfoil hat on me and call me a kook, they are well-meaning government officials. You're confused, I can tell. Let's go over the cure and then I'll show you why certain people in the government need to be removed, because they're not doing anyone any favors. Now, my own personal research about the stopping sugar cravings involved about 12 different vitamins. It was like the nursery rhyme about the woman that swallowed a fly. Each vitamin is a link, is in a great big chain. You take this one to help this one, and that one helps the first one, and the third helps the process the second, and the one coming after it. Poof, no more sugar cravings. That being said, my research for addiction led to one vitamin. Hooray! So simple, even a white caveman in a commercial can do it. I always thought those commercials were racist myself. You white people do know black people insult you by calling you cave dwellers. Oops, was I not supposed to let that slip out, black people? Anyway, just one vitamin cures all drug addictions, crack, heroin, cocaine. And that vitamin is organic, high-dose vitamin C. Probably with rose hips wouldn't hurt either. Yes, in fact, the studies done on drug addicts found that the more dosage given to the addicts alleviated more symptoms, to the point that the addicts requested more vitamin C on their own. This study was performed multiple times with the same result. But wait, it gets better. A study was performed in front of federal government officials. It was completely successful, and the officials were thrilled with the finding. In fact, during one of these studies, addicts found out the government was in town, specifically to review the study, and they were so overjoyed, they shared with them that even an addict could tell another addict about the protocol, and the new addict didn't even need to go into a rehab center. This was the beginning of the end. After months of the government not putting forth a report, they were contacted, and this is what they said. If this protocol got out, all rehab workers and doctors would lose their job. We cannot let this get out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your government at work for you. I'll just make this statement. There are thousands of areas like this where this is the government stance. We'd prefer that millions of Americans die instead of killing off an unnecessary industry. As a libertarian, this hurts my heart. I don't see why more people don't join the Libertarian Party, because even as the government says that, it's completely false. Because if it's an industry that doesn't pay the government or doesn't have a powerful lobby, they'll kill off that industry in a heartbeat. Think of all the out-of-work factory workers, car manufacturer workers, steel workers. They don't care about jobs. They care about jobs they're paid to care about. If it happens to kill millions of people, they could care less. But what's true is, we still need steel. They just don't need care that steel workers are out of a job. The work has been shipped overseas, and taxpayers are paying for the benefit of putting American steel workers out of a job. It's good that you can clearly see how corrupt our government is with such an open and shut case as a full-fledged heroin addict being sold down the river with something as simple as vitamin C to cure him. I want you to go beyond. What else is the government propping up just because they're being paid to? Please share this video. Thumbs up this video so more people can see it. You might save someone's life simply by giving this a thumbs up. If this video is something that you really like, subscribe to the channel. The more subscriptions on a video tells me to do more videos like this. It gives the channel feedback on what the viewers want to see. Thank you.